درود به شما دوستان عزیز، همراهان گرامی. خوشحالم که اینجا در کنار شما هستم. برنامه‌ای که قرار شما ببینید ویژه برنامه‌ای است با حضور دو چهره بسیار مهم در ایالات متحده آمریکا. چهره‌ای که از فرماندهان سابق نیرو دریایی بودند، فرمانده عملیات ضربت نیرو دریایی آمریکا، و همچنین جناب بیژن کنار از جمله چهره‌های شناخته شده ایرانی که در امریکا از جمله چهره‌های برجسته‌ای هستند که مسئولیت‌های متعدد داشتند. این اول برنامه است. من به شما توضیح میدم که در واقع چه برنامه‌ای خواهیم داشت و بعد در طول برنامه قرار هست کاملا به گفتگو به زبان انگلیسی انجام بشه و بعد هم در میانه برنامه سوالات شما پرسیده خواهد شد و همچنین قرار این برنامه بعدها به صورت بعد از تمام شدن برنامه لایو به صورت کاملا حالا زیرنویس شده، ترجمه شده شما ببینید. دوستان عزیز، در این برنامه من به دلیل اون کمبود وقتی که وجود داره و مهم بودن بحث به هیچ عنوان سوالی نخواهم پرسید و اینجا گفتگوی دو نفر از افرادی هستند که پیشتر هم با هم در یک دانشگاه بودن، در یک دوره ویژه بسیار مهمی بودن، ویژه دانشجویان در بالاترین رده‌های نظامی امنیتی آمریکا حضور داشتن و به همین خاطر من فکر می‌کنم جناب بیژن کیان و جناب آدمیرال وایت که همکلاسی هم بودن خودشون قراره صحبت کنن در مورد وضعیت جنگ ایران، جنگ و وضعیت مشخصاً وضعیتی که داره پیش میره جلو. آیا ما در مسیری هستیم که منتهی به جنگ خواهد شد یا نه؟ من فقط برای ورود یک ولکامی خواهم گفت و بعد از اون شما شاهد صحبت‌های جناب کیان و جناب آدمیرال وایت خواهید بود. از شما تقاضا میکنم اگر سوالی داشتید برای ما بنویسید، من سوالو انتقال خواهم داد به جناب کیان عزیز و اگر ایشون در بین صحبت‌های خودشون استفاده کنن سوالای شما رو جواب بدن. همچنین با جناب آدمیرال وایت هم این موضوع رو خواهیم داشت. پس من مستقیم میرم به اتاق گفتگوی خودمون. این برنامه به صورت ویژه هستش، همونطور که اشاره کردم قرار نیست من اینجا سوالی ازشون بپرسم، یک سخنرانی سوی دو نفر قرار انجام بشه و بیشتر یک نوع استراتژی هایی که وجود داره اونها رو داره مطرح میشه و چیزهای دیگه. من ویلکام میگم به آدمیرال وایت و همچنین جناب بیژن کیان. اجازه بدید. ویلکام آدمیرال وایت and honorable بیژن کیان.
Thank you, Morteza. Good to be with you. You know, we usually open the program by saying happy to be with you. These days, we're not happy. We're mourning the murder, brutal murder of tens of thousands of unarmed Iranians at the hand of the brutal dictatorship, the tyranny in Iran, called the Islamic Republic in Iran. So today, I want to thank you for your service in the United States Navy. And thank you for all the work that you do. And thank you for putting two classmates on the screen today. We're going to have a good conversation with my dear friend and brother and classmate, Rear Admiral White, who commanded the strike force. And you made that clear also in your introduction. But we're going to talk about our personal experiences, our personal views. We are both speaking in personal capacity. And by no means are we representing any organization, any entity other than me serving you and others. And Admiral White also, we're very honored. The Institute for Voices of Liberty has Admiral White as one of its very first senior members of the Advisory Council. And it's not just a name on a roster. Admiral White and I have been talking constantly, routinely. So this is so that you could hear Admiral White and I talk about our experiences. And I start by saying, welcome, Admiral White. I call you Gary, my classmate, and delighted to see you. Like I said, we are mourning the murder of a lot of innocent people, and condolences to them. So please start at will. Admiral White, you and the people who are listening. We have over 600 people right now, maybe more, listening to us right now, and it will grow as we go on. But this program would be subtitled and distributed widely. So a lot of people will hear what you have to say. Welcome and thank you.
Well, and thank you. It's truly my honor to be here with you. I can remember back to our days at Harvard, where we were both fellows in the senior executive program for national and international security, and I, from our first meeting, I gained an incredible amount of respect for you, Bijan, and you, amongst all of our fellows, were the one that I found most informative from our conversations. I enjoyed talking with you the most, and just our conversations were always insightful, and that's why for probably, I guess that was probably over 20 years ago or about 20 years ago now, when I've had a need for inside information, if you will, insight into not only the Middle East, but global affairs and domestic affairs in the U.S., you're who I would reach out to. And that hasn't changed. That's
Very
why.
kind. That's very kind of you. But I know better. I know better. You're very kind. We had an incredible class. You're one of the smartest,
Thank
flag officers in that class. I think they were all flag officers. We didn't have, I mean, we did have probably senior officers in the class, but mostly flag officers who were heading something in their own countries. Very unique time. But you know
you.
what
Yeah.
I remember? What I remember from that class, Gary, is David Gergen, who had worked for 5 presidents of the United States, came to the class and he shared the story about how people like, Vice President Cheney and the President Clinton, after having heart operations, have no zest for life. They become negative and painful and all that. And then, of course, he didn't know that there was somebody sitting there with bandage on his chest, just having an open heart surgery, and that was me. And you remember
Wow.
the football game, the football.
I do,
So
yeah. One that stood out in my mind, and I may get the details a little bit off because it has been 20 years, but I believe it was the Iraqi Deputy National Security Advisor, and we were in
yeah,
yeah, we were in a discussion about whether it was worth it because we had just had the liberation, if you want to term it that, of Iraq. And somebody asked him, was it worth it now that we've seen this bloodshed and seen the loss of life, which is, it's just always a tragedy when that occurs. But there was still a great deal of tumult, internal tumult in Iraq at the time. And so the question that was posed to him was it worth it? And he came back with a statement, and I don't know if you recall this or not, but I
remember exactly
remember
what you said.
it was open. Well, I'll just say it. He said, I'll answer your question with a question. Would you rather be a bird in a cage where everything is taken care of? You know you're going to have food each day. Or would you rather be in the forest and perhaps have to struggle for that food and for your very existence, but you have freedom? Which would you prefer? And immediately in my mind, the answer was obvious. You want freedom. You want the ability to choose your life. But what I found extremely interesting was the sidebar discussions afterwards with some of our other colleagues, and they saw it completely different. They saw it as, why would you want to risk your life to be free when you can have everything provided to you? And that was profound to me, that people could interpret it differently. And so that's why people have to have self-determination in their own life so that they can decide to a degree, but that can never be imposed on other people. So I made the point to him, and I went back and asked the person that posed that question, how did you mean it? And he kind of gave the same response. He said, I thought it was obvious. You have to choose freedom. but it wasn't obvious to everyone. And boy, that really translates now, I think, to what's going on in Iran. There's an oppressive regime there that, as you have already pointed out, has killed so many people. It's just an absolute tragedy. And I hope that we're at a pivotal point right now in our history, certainly Iran's history. And I hope that we choose the right path to put this oppression and a lack of basic human rights, put it to rest. I know my career, to be honest with you, one of the pivotal moments in my career was my very first deployment. And it was about I think a 7-month deployment. And I was undecided as to whether I was going to make the Navy a career or not. But during that deployment, there were 3 different occasions where regions of the world were on the brink of hostilities, and simply our presence was able to deter that. The overwhelming firepower that a carrier strike group brings to a region. And the first was down off the Horn of Africa with Somalia and Ethiopia. The second are ones that we're still dealing with now. And I'm talking, this was probably close to 50 years ago, probably 45 years ago. And it was the Bab el-Mandeb Straits and the Houthis in Yemen. And we went in all 3 of those events, we did not have to fire a shot. It was the overwhelming firepower and the deterrent effect that had. And the third was over in the Straits of Hormuz. And that one we have been dealing with ever since. And we've had a couple of opportunities.
Admiral?
I'm sorry?
Was that Praying Mantis, the Operation 1988?
No, it was actually prior to that, and it never came to hostilities. The time frame I'm thinking of was the very early 80s. It was 1981, and there was, I think at that time, it was harassing shipping and that kind of thing. So we went there as a deterrent force and were effective. And I think the current Islamic regime was pretty much in its infancy then, in 1981, but you have a much better grasp of that than I. And so I think at that time that was enough to deter it. But I'm concerned today that just the overwhelming force that we have assembled, because the leadership in this regime is driven by ideology, and they may not make the best decisions, which, while it may seem like a terrible event in the near term, if it does come to hostilities, in the long term, that may be for the best. Because I personally think that the senior leadership in this regime is, and I'll use a word that people could debate, but somewhat incorrigible. I'm normally very optimistic, but I'm not optimistic that they will change their ways. And if they don't, and if there isn't some kind of an intervention that forces them to change their ways, then the people of Iran will continue to be oppressed and will continue to live life like the bird in the cage. And that would be a travesty. And so hopefully there will be something pivotal that will cause the regime to either change their ways or change the government. But I'm taking all the time here, Bijan, and
Please go ahead.
So I would like nothing better than to see the people of Iran to be free and to control their own destiny and not have to suffer under this oppressive regime. And if the regime is able to modify their behavior, then they may be able to continue to exist, but it's up to them. And I'm personally not optimistic that they will do that. I think they have just gone down this path too far, and I don't know if it's almost a state of self-delusion or what. Again, going back to Iraq, before that war started, Saddam Hussein was saying, this is going to be the end of the great Satan. We are going to crush them. And I don't know if that was just hyperbole, that he was trying to motivate his forces, or if he isolated him so much and created an environment where he could not get good, accurate advice, and they had deluded themselves into thinking that there was going to be a different outcome. If this goes to hostilities in Iran, I have little doubt that it will mean the end of the regime. There will be fatalities, potentially on both sides, and that will all be a shame, but it will be of the making of this Islamic regime that has failed to keep up with the current world order. An order that respects human rights. And they're not alone. Unfortunately, and I know we won't have time to solve all the world's problems here today, but there are other regimes, and I think it's obvious. Russia, China, North Korea, and people will say they're an axis of evil, and I never want to give someone that label, but I'll let someone else do that. But all I know is they're incompatible with today's world order. Please, Bijan.
I hear you, Gary, and I am listening to you very carefully, and I know that you are a war fighter. I've never met in all these 47 years of life a general or an admiral who openly advocated for war over diplomacy. Never. That is part of the decorum, as part of the protocol
Yes.
of a military officer, let alone a flag officer. I understand. Basically, when diplomats are done, Admiral White, you start your job. You don't make a decision to go to war, but when they order you to go to war, you go to war to win. And that is the United States Navy, the greatest Navy in the whole world. And this greatest Navy doesn't make a decision to go to war, but when it does go to war, it's going to be a bad day for whoever is at the business end of your artillery on any ship anywhere. It's a bad day. Not going to
You are
end up.
absolutely.
This is
And
not.
I'll just interject one statement that I used to make frequently. It is
Yes.
far better to prevent war than to win it. But as you said, if our hands become tied, we will win it. There's no doubt.
The best diplomats. When I had the honor of teaching at the Naval Postgraduate School, I talked to these young foreign officers as well as very senior, some flag officers. When I was at the Navy University flag school, I saw all of your colleagues, more than 90 of them in my class, and none of them would ever say that war before diplomacy. They always say diplomacy before war. And, talk about the philosophy of Samuel Huntington's and the purpose of the Navy and all of that. And, I also know that, Gary, you are a fighter jet pilot, FAA 18 Super Hornet, and you took me on board I believe it was George H.W. Bush.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful ship. And what I remember was how they made the family room of the Bushes, recreated it on board the ship, and you and I visited that. And then you took me near a Super Hornet, and you were explaining to me how you did your job on that beautiful piece of equipment. And what I remember of what you told me was one word that has been in my head for all these years. And the word is meatball. And I know we're in the middle of a very serious conversation, but meatball in Farsi, we have a lot of our audience is Farsi speaking. In Farsi, meatball means kufte. And kufte is just like meatball, a little different. It's round. It really looks like a ball. A meatball doesn't look like it looks like maybe a loaf, but meatballs, I guess there's a reason it's called a meatball. Why is it called a meatball, and what does it mean? And I wonder, what do Iranian fighter jet pilots call what you call a meatball?
Well, I'm glad, and I was sitting here thinking anyone that was listening to this might not have any idea what you're talking about, and raise the question of why is he talking about eating meatballs, and clearly that's not the case. So the aircraft carrier environment is an incredibly dynamic and potentially hazardous environment. The only reason that there aren't mishaps every single day is because of the training and the complete competence of the people that are manning that ship. And I think people are aware that now there's about 5,000 people on the ship. It is a proverbial city at sea with everything that any city of 5,000 would have, with
With
television
7-Eleven,
stations. Pardon me?
with two 7-Elevens on board as well, or something like.
Yes. Stores for shopping, to buy the essentials, restaurants, all that. But then a couple of nuclear reactors and an incredibly capable airfield, if you will, with roughly 70 aircraft. It may be a little bit less now, but that's in rough numbers. In fact, it's often casually referred to, one carrier, as the seventh largest air force in the world, and just the capability and firepower. Plus, there is an incredible amount of ordnance, weaponry, everything that you would want in something that was as capable as the flagship that it is for the nation. And so to come back aboard in a fighter aircraft is incredibly difficult. You're effectively coming in, depending on the weight of the aircraft, how much fuel, whether you're bringing ordnance back or not, the weight. Uh, you're about 100, let's just say nominally 175 miles an hour, and you have about a 2-foot space that you have to go through precisely every time to be able to have your hook engage one of 4, or the newer carriers now 3, but one of the arresting wires. They're heavy cables, a couple inches in diameter. And so the level of precision is incredible. If you're ever so slightly high, then you're going to miss the wires and you're going to go around and have to try it again. But you don't have a lot of time, because fighter jets burn gas very quickly. So you probably only got a couple of looks at the deck before you're in a fuel emergency. And so that's why you need to have close to 100% boarding rate. So if you're a little bit low, that's far worse. If you're a little high, you miss a wire, you go around, and hopefully you get it on the next try. If you're a little low, you can hit the ramp, and that will probably be fatal for you and potentially hundreds of other people on that ship. And so that's absolutely unacceptable. So on the back of the ship, we have what are called landing signal officers, and they have the responsibility, not complete, because the pilot obviously is the pilot in command of that aircraft. And so, he's got a lot of skin in the game, more than anyone else. And what I mean by that is if there's a mishap, he probably will not survive. It's rare that someone survives an impact where a fighter aircraft hits the ground or hits something. If the type of mishap is a little more controlled where they can eject, then they have a high survivability rate. So getting aboard the carrier, pardon me?
Where's the meatball coming in?
Well, that's where I'm going right now. So getting aboard for that last probably 17 seconds as you're coming in, which for the pilot, when he's controlling that, it seems like an eternity. 17 seconds doesn't feel like that long, but they have done tests where they have measured the heart rate and the level of stress on pilots, both coming aboard an aircraft carrier and in combat operations, in all the different operations that fighter pilots do. And what is the most stressful and requires the most focus and raises the blood pressure, raises the heart rate, is that last 17 seconds trying to get aboard an aircraft carrier. So the three things that you have to have right are basically your glide path coming in and your lineup and your speed. So what is pounded in people's head, you focus on three things and three things only. Meatball, and I'll explain it. Meatball, lineup, and angle of attack. So the meatball is something called, the real name is the Fresnel lens, and it is effectively an X with a vertical and a horizontal plane. The horizontal is what's called datum lights, and it is a solid set of lights that goes all the way across except where it meets the vertical panel. They're fixed, and that's kind of your reference. The vertical in the middle, has Fresnel lenses, so you can only see one cell at a time. So if people don't know, the way that I try to explain that, it's like louvers. It's like right here I have blinds that you can move, and those louvers will either completely block you seeing what's on the other side, or at a different angle, then you can see in, and so it's illuminated. So the meatball is a set of lights that are on, but they shine out at different angles. So if you're low, then it appears like the light that's illuminated is low from those datums. And as you elevate, then the illuminated cell appears to go up, and you want to have it right in line with that horizontal. If you get a little bit higher, then it will go high. So the meatball is that light, and you want to have it a solid horizontal line. If the meatball is high, then you and your aircraft are high. If it's low, then you're low. So hopefully that explains the meatball.
Of course. Thank you for that explanation. People
in the lineup.
Why are we talking about meatballs in the middle of a political time? We're about to start a war. Why are we talking about this? And the reason is twofold. Number one, I want our audience to understand what a flag officer who commanded the strike force carrier group, this is not one ship, many ships that you actually commanded, how much in detail a very high-ranking senior commander is aware of the importance of training. I want people who are listening to this, maybe have some former Imperial Iranian Air Force pilots who are watching this and they're enjoying this talk. They are interested in politics, but they're also interested in listening to you. And that's why we're talking about meatballs. But we're talking about aircrafts and fighter jet pilots. You mentioned something that brings me back to a very important issue. And I'll get into the battle discussion again, but first, the political issue. You know, people of Iran, Gary, have risen. They don't care about what the world thinks about the Islamic Republic. They don't like it. They don't like it. They have said very, very clearly with their lives. Tens of thousands of people came out and confronted the Islamic Republic. The Islamic Republic brutally murdered them. And the world saw that. I mean, literally, we heard that it was filmed, it was videoed, thanks to the information age, and decision makers in the United States saw for themselves. After uttering some very disturbing words like, oh, there were too many people and you know, they were killed in the crowd and all that, but they saw it, they know the reality. There are two wars going on right now. A war, which is a potential between the United States and the Islamic Republic, which, I believe is going to happen. This is a military operation. Maybe we don't call it a war because we get to the legality of what the definition of a war. But there are two conflicts going on. One is older. One is 47 years old. People of Iran have been fighting this government for 47 years. They will not give up. The government just killed tens of thousands of their children. There can never be peace in that war. I believe any diplomatic effort must consider this. This government has killed its own people's children. There shall never be peace. There is only one winner in that war, and that is the people of Iran. There are 90 million of them. They don't want this regime. They've come to the streets. And Gary, you can watch the films. They're not made up. They're not AI. They shout their slogans. But two words. These two words are long live the king. And the West, of course, interprets this, oh, another monarchy. Oh, we got rid of that George III in 1775, 1776. We don't want any of that. We don't want any of that. We understand. We understand the Western view. But that's not what it means exactly. What it means to them, they have an opportunity to say something about an era. And that era was when they had a normal life. That era was when the Pahlavi dynasty was in power. I know the West has a different view of the monarchy, but this is important. It's an important issue. They've risen. They've given their lives. And, a few other friends who I won't name on this program, but you know them. There are military colleagues and friends and people who we know. They keep saying, look, the people of Iran must win this fight on their own. We are not going to go there and change the regime and help replace it with another one. That's not a responsibility that America can take. We know that. We know that. What I'm trying to say and convey is what the people of Iran are saying. They're saying, fine, thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. You are going to come and help us for your own purposes. I don't think we owe you anything because you're not doing this for us. You're doing this because there is a risk, there is a threat, and you're trying to remove it. But we also understand that America is a country that has taken responsibility in an exceptional way, always standing for liberty and freedom, because your Constitution, the greatest document ever written by the hand of man, tells you to do that, and you follow it. And that's why you've survived for 250 years. We're going to celebrate America's 250 year. We agree. People of Iran are going to do their fight. But if you can, help them. If you can, help them. That's what they're saying. If you can, come help us. We are unarmed. We're going to the streets. You tell us keep fighting, we keep fighting. But when they face us with their combat weapons and kill us thousands at every minute, we need help. Could you send those drones? Could you do something to help us right now? But by the way, when Marquis de Lafayette came here from France and said, I'm here to help you, what would you say to him if he said, I'm here. We thank you. Appreciate it that you're here. But what would you say if he said, "I'm here to help you, but I don't like that George Washington guy. I don't think he's the right leader right now." What people of Iran are saying, please, Mr. President, President Trump, we love you. Please let us choose who we want to choose to follow. We need a compass. This is not about somebody going to Iran to become a king and crown himself. No, that is not the case. This is a man who's dedicated his life 47 years, never, ever has been seeking a position of power. He wants to act as a compass so we could all follow him. He will carry the flag of lion and sun. This is the name of this revolution, Gary. People of Iran call it the lion and sun revolution. What he wants to do is to act as that compass so that the greatest number of people can follow the flag held by someone they trust. And this is what the people of Iran expect. We don't want to get you in a war. We don't want boots on the ground. We don't want any of that. We're just saying you have a threat by an entity that's 47 years have been fingering American politics in any way they can, and the gentleness and the diplomatic tone that I can hear even in your warfighter's voice. See, the world needs to understand that we speak softly but carry a big stick, as Teddy Roosevelt said. We do that. We are Americans. And please don't be surprised by me calling myself an American. Gary, I get a lot of criticism as to why do you have the flag of the United States behind you? And my answer is an honest, simple answer. I have sworn to uphold the Constitution of the United States, take arms, and defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that's why I have the flag there. And I'm very proud of it. This is my
Good.
flag. My soil is American. My blood is Iranian. I can't change that. I
Right.
wasn't. I wasn't ever ever going to forget that blood. I'm very proud of it. So if you see passion, it's not because I have Iranian blood. It's because I follow the Constitution of the United States, not the part that promotes federalism. You know, federalism, I look at it as something that really was a miracle for this country. 13 entities unrelated to each other, they became one. But to suggest for Iran, and you said something that's really important, because another fighter jet pilot said the same thing. Prince Reza Pahlavi has come with four principles, four immovable principles. And one of them, in fact, the number four is people should be able to determine their own destiny. That
Mhm.
comes right out of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, I think Article 21. And and he says that. He says that himself. Another fighter pilot. Prince Reza Pahlavi was trained in United States as a fighter jet pilot, and so he said that. He said the right to determine their own destiny. He says, look, the territorial integrity of Iran is not something to argue about. This is our red line. Iranian people for thousands of years have kept together. Iran is one country, it has one nation, and it has one flag. Then he says, individuals should have individual rights. The society should protect the individual rights, and rights should be equal for everyone. And religion has to be separate from the state. He is not fighting Islam. Nobody is fighting Islam. Gary, the French have expression. They say never argue with anyone about his favorite taste of food and his favorite color. You will not win. It doesn't matter. Religion is like that. People are entitled to have their own beliefs, and nobody can argue, nobody can dispute that. So we are at this point. We're at the point where Iranian people have risen, they've given their lives, they're responsible, they're brave, they're fighting, and we are looking at them. We know they're fighting. It's not like the government of Islamic Republic tried to turn the lights off and do whatever they want to kill people. Well, we're in the information age. Morteza doesn't let him do that because every day he's reminding what he's hearing from people inside Iran. They're fighting. They're fighting. I'm in communication with some of my old colleagues, military, and they keep saying, this is a fight Iranian people have to win on their own. And I'm saying, fine, then don't mess with their configurations. Let them win it on their own. You do what you have to do.
Yeah.
The people of Iran do not ask you to do things for them. They only wonder when you do things that don't make sense. Now, I don't want to make this conversation partisan because that's not your swim lane, and I won't get you into that. But we haven't had a president all this 47 years with a resolve to say, look, America is more important to me than anything else, and including trade and resources and all that. And he's doing a great job. I have no doubt that President Trump is going to put the interest of the United States above anything else. And he will make decisions with that. But I want to ask you a question. We are about to look at a military engagement, and I think it's 100%. I want to ask you another question, which is a term that used perhaps in military talk. Gary, what does setting the table mean in military terms? In your Navy, what does it mean? In our Navy, when we say we set the table, what does that mean exactly?
Well, and Bijan, I'll answer that, but there's a number of things that you said that I would like to just touch on. First, I remember well training with Iranian pilots when I was going through flight training. And so I wonder if I trained with the prince. I don't know because it's been, 45 years, but it's quite possible.
Where were you in 1978, 1977? I don't remember exactly.
Going through flight training. 78, 79 is when I went through flight training.
Very light.
Yeah. And it started in Pensacola. And I remember, and so that takes me to a point I'd like to make because I was thinking about it when you were talking. I want all the Iranian people to clearly understand that if this comes to hostilities, it is not directed at them. We love the Iranian people. As I said, I trained and lived with and worked with Iranian pilots and Iranian people. And so if it comes to that, which hopefully it won't, but I'm not optimistic that it won't come to that, it will be directed at the brutal, oppressive regime that is currently controlling Iran. And so I also want to make it clear, because we casually refer to it as the Islamic regime. And I would never want there to be any misunderstanding about the Islam part of it. This is nothing to do with anyone's choice of religion. We have great respect for Islam. So I almost want to start just referring to them as the brutal dictatorship that is currently in control of Iran, or the oppressive regime, and almost leave the Islamic part out of it, because it really has nothing to do with Islam. It has to do with the people who are in control and oppressing their own people. They have betrayed the trust, in my opinion, because leadership entails an incredible responsibility and trust and responsibility. And when a leader betrays that trust, they can't be a leader any longer, because they are, they may be leading, but they're not leading well. And in the case of Iran, it's leading to just such terrible living situations. So to move on, go
in
ahead.
some people's mind that I'd like you to address, and this is the propaganda. Islamic Republic is using AI these days to make scary pictures of aircraft coming out of the mountain and under the sea and all these things. Could you briefly? I mean, the reason I mentioned that I spoke on the date of the Operation Praying Mantis. The Operation Praying Mantis, I believe it was in '81. It was the tanker wars that triggered it, if I remember correctly. And the Islamic Republic Navy was decimated on that day within few hours. And that was just a touch of the power. What I remember from that, I was given a particular account of what happened that day. And what I remember is that your friends, two Navy pilots were in the operation, and they disabled one ship and basically sank it, and the other ship was limping to port when the United States Navy pilot commanding the operation ordered to leave it alone, because it is no longer a threat. That's also the discipline that the United States Navy brings about. That was a long time ago. Today we have weapons they cannot even imagine what it could do to them. And yet they come out and they make statements, about their strength and what they could do. They talk about sinking an aircraft carrier and all of these things. And they do this, Gary, to give a feeling to the warfighters over there who are fed up with them. Many of them. They talk to us. And they say, look, just because we go to work every day is because we have to feed our families. That's the only reason. There's no will to fight, and there is no attachment. Many of them. Of course, there's another element. 47 years, a number of people, as it is in all dictatorships. We have the oligarchs in Russia today, and we have the oligarchs in Iran, who, by the way, are good friends with the Russian oligarchs, and they have all kinds of give and take there. They want to keep that money. They are paying indirectly or directly foreign fighters to come in to kill Iranians so that they could keep this. Now, I'd like to ask you, in a warfighter mode, just tell them how wrong they are. They cannot sink an aircraft carrier. That's impossible. The systems there, they're incapable of doing that. Their navy it's a joke. I don't know if you've seen the picture of one of their submarines, the Band-Aid submarine with some, basic thing. I don't even know if that picture is real. Are they really crazy showing that as a submarine? Maybe you haven't seen it, but tell us what you would do to a force that is determined to sink your aircraft carrier. Somebody came in to sink Gerald Ford. What's going to happen to them? Please tell them that.
They're going to die. It's just that simple. And throughout my career, I would push to train very hard to be fully capable, and through most of my career, the threat of dying was sufficient deterrent. And I think I used to use the analogy of, I would ask the crew when I would be meeting with them, how many of you would pick a fight with somebody if you knew you were going to get your butt kicked? And there'd be a few extremists, but that's about it. And it's the same thing on a global scale. We are so well trained and so well prepared that there is no doubt of the outcome that will occur. But we aren't doing this out of self-interest. We're doing this to promote basic human rights, democracy or whatever, such that people are able to live a life where they have the ability to be happy, as you already said, self-determination, again, just free from oppression. And that's not what's occurring right now. But if there was an attack, it was always the deterrent to say that they would die. I had to amend that as we moved into the war on global terrorism, because I said it's no longer enough that they know they're going to die. We have to be so well trained that yes, they will die. That's a foregone conclusion, but they will also fail in what they're striving to do. So if they're coming to attack, they will not be successful and they will die. And so their
So
objectives are
what do you say to an admiral who, by the way, there are two branches, as you know. There's the IRGC with military capabilities that are joke. They're not trained well. Look at these admirals, and generals. Their generals go to formal military uh, proceedings wearing sports shoes. Would you ever imagine something like that? The commanding general doesn't fix the insignia on his hat. It's like discipline is a joke in the IRGC. The regular army, which is really the remnants, 50-year-old remnants of the Imperial Iranian army. I hope that you get a chance one day to get together with a group of both Navy and Air Force officers. Maybe you find some of your old classmates
I
amongst
would
them.
like that.
They're here and they're good friends and they're wonderful. We're very proud of them. One of our colleagues, Bobby Barkett, who just retired or about to retire in the United States Navy, is a collector of all the bravery of the Imperial Iranian Air Force pilots. And I'll get you that book that he has acquired, definitely. But I'm glad you're mentioning this. Now, put yourself in the shoes of an admiral or a general. Today, you're serving the Islamic Republic and you're set up to do things that traditionally regular armies don't do. Regular armies don't attach themselves to a person or to a particular government. They serve the
Yeah.
people for the purpose of securing freedom. And you're sitting there, you're looking at this ship going down. I mean, the ship of Islamic Republic has no weight. You see that they've killed people's children. They can never make up with these people. There's no way that you could be standing on the deck of your ship looking at soldiers who've lost maybe children to the government you're serving. There's no way that could happen. What would you say to that general, to that admiral? Say, you are here to serve the people. What do you say for them to say there's a cheaper way to do this? There's a much cheaper, much lower expense to do this. This is an exercise in futility. You are supporting a government that is not going to make it. Not today, not this weekend, not forever. What do you say to them?
Well, so you're touching on a lot of wonderful points here, Bijan. And as everyone knows, we have civilian control over our military, and so that's why you touched on it before, that you wouldn't drag me into a partisan discussion. And in my entire life, my entire career in the military, and I've carried that over, as nonpartisan. It's what's best for the nation. And so I applaud what you're alluding to with those who are serving in the Iranian armed forces, who their first loyalty is to the people of Iran, not to a regime that has betrayed the trust of the people. And so if it becomes apparent that there is a time for a change, then they need to be a part of that change. So I hope that if it comes to hostilities, again, I'm consistent that I hope it doesn't, but if it does, I think that the regime and the regime loyalists that are not going to ever accept a type of government that will be respectful of their people, those people, they all need to go away. And they're unfortunately, and this is a tough call, but it's a leadership call that has to be made. There are some people that the world is better off without. And I think we can all think of who those people are. And while that's a difficult thing to say, I think that it is prudent. And so you also touched before on that, yes, the U.S. will put their interests first. But I've also always said in my career that we have a responsibility to help other people who are striving for the same thing. And you said before that there will be those people in our country, in America, and in other places around the world that will say it's not our responsibility to rid Iran of this regime. And it will fall ultimately, as it should, on the people of Iran to control their own destiny. And you touched on picking who the leader would be. Yes, the Iranian people have to pick who their leader will be. That's not something for someone else to do. But that responsibility to help others, we have that debate always in our country. And there are two sides. And the side that I have always taken is if you can do the right thing and you can help people and you can contribute to the greater good, why would you not want to do that? And so being the world's policeman, if you want to term it that, that's not what we're striving for. But if we see a wrong and we can help to right it, that's what we want to do. And people will say, well, you can't solve everything in the world. You can't solve world hunger, is what they'll quickly say. No, but we can feed a lot of people. And so that's what we want to do. In the case of Iran, the people there have been oppressed for so long, and there have been a number of times where they have clearly pushed back on the regime. And with a little help, it might have gone a different way where the Iranian people would have self-determination right now. Those opportunities have passed. That's history, but we should learn from history. And right now, if we can help, we should do that. And hopefully that will be the case. So I think that at times there are some people that have this America first. Yes, we recognize that. But it's not only America. It's everyone who is striving for the proper ideals and push back on those who are not. Go ahead, Bijan.
Absolutely. And as we're doing this, we know who we are. We know who we are. 150 years of just amazing history proves what you just claimed. We've been that way.
Yes.
Have we made mistakes along the way? Who can do things and not make mistakes? If you do a lot, you're bound to have a mistake. As America stayed true to its promise of all of us are created with equal rights. And those are different. Nobody can give it to us or take it from us. That's what makes America special. But you're so correct. You're so correct. I believe those who we have a lot of mixture of politics and economy. Money does have its own effect in policy formations. You cannot deny that. There are countries in the region, each have their own special interest. For example, why talk in tongues? Qatar, for example, has an interest. Qatar has an LNG plant. I signed off. I had the honor of serving the President of the United States, part of my responsibility, on LNG plants for countries in the world. And, actually, Export Import Bank of the United States did finance Qatar's LNG plant. There was a shared natural gas field that Qatar has been uh, using, and Iranians have fallen behind. They are not able because when you have gas, you have to have a pipeline, and establishing pipelines is very difficult. But if you have an LNG plant, you make that liquefied, and then you put it in special ships, and you can ship it anywhere. So Qatar has been doing that, and that's a reality. And Qatar wants to continue doing that, uncontested, without Iran. So a normal country is definitely going to do that. It's like a wallet. And there are people like myself who are just bent on making sure that happens. And
Mhm.
many are focused on this. So obviously they don't like it. That's fine. They have their own interests. But here's the deal. They spend a lot of money, clouding the picture in the United States as to what is good for us, what is not good for us. I think this is a concern. There is a concern. There is also the some opposition groups who are trying to build a wall in front of the Iranian people. They want to confront them and say, no, this is a great opportunity. We want to grab some power. You just died for that purpose, and we will take the opportunity to seek power. Gary, there are two groups in Iran: freedom seekers and power seekers.
Mhm.
Freedom seekers are dying for freedom. Power seekers are killing themselves to gain power. They put meetings together. They pretend like they're in sync with the United States government. They, make stories up. It's information age. We understand that. PR is everything. But these are the realities. The best interest of the United States is to stay with the Iranian people, who are going to be the best friends of the United States, as they were the best friends of the United States. And that's what the long term. Short term interests are not going to last. This lithium deal and that uranium deal, and these are all interesting. But I can assure the viewers here who are listening to me, I don't know everything. In fact, I don't know anything. But I am confident. It is my belief that this president, this United States, is completely aware of what is going on there. Don't mistake diplomatic talk for the real life. Diplomatic talk is like this. As you know, we leave a meeting, come out, somebody, puts a microphone in our face and say, "How did the meeting go?" Excellent. We had productive discussions. We are making progress. Don't get fooled by any of this. The fact of the matter, in my opinion, Gary, and please, I want you to say the last words. My opinion, there is no peace between the people of Iran and this government in the form that it exists. In the form that it exists. I'm not suggesting we go there and just destroy everyone in uniform just because they were in uniform. No. I'm saying if you haven't killed anyone, if you haven't stolen any money, there is going to be a guarantee that you'll be safe, you keep your job. People of Iran are going to give you that guarantee, and you will have that. Don't worry about it. Do what Admiral Gary White says. You serve the people. And I want to address the military. I want to address the flag officers. They know who they are. They know me. I know them. I'm talking to them. Listen to this colleague in a different uniform who's telling
Yeah.
you, I know the feeling of a general, of an admiral. You have taken an oath to serve the people of your country. You have not taken an oath to serve an Islamist government, a dictatorship that does kill people so brutally, tens of thousands of people. You know, somebody just called me and said, a kid, a 9-year-old kid who happened to have the same first name as my last name. And, we try and keep a real cold face on TV and appearances, but we're human beings. How can I not feel sad or broken when the mother of a 9-year-old says they killed my son? Do you think there's ever going to be peace between that government and these people? I say to our decision makers, to our policy makers, please consider this. Making a deal with this government is not going to last. They'll tell you whatever you need to hear. But I am comforted by one word, just one word, and that is durable. Durable. President Trump wants a durable solution, a sustainable solution, not just words. And
Right.
this is comfort to the people that, yes, there are negotiations, there may be results announced that confuse you further, but if the promise of Islamic Republic is not a permanent one to get away from the nuclear program, it's not going to be accepted. We are going to have military engagement to accomplish our goals, and do not doubt that at all. Diplomacy is a funny game. It's just like this. You first say things they don't want to hear, but with a smile. And your goal is for them to do what you want them to do. So it's not to frown, and it's not to be angry, and it's not to shoot at them. First, you want them to do what you want them to be, and that's really influencing that behavior through any means, through Admiral White and his beautiful, I use President Trump's words, beautiful strike group, carrier group, who would leave no doubt in your minds. You go to war with the United States of America, there are 4 letters uttered by the Secretary of War. I like that name, by the way. Secretary of War is like real for good for this time. Secretary of War has 4 letters for you: FAFO. And if the Iranian admirals are not familiar with that term, they're about to learn what that means exactly, Gary. I'm saying that not as a threat, but as a promise. I know. I've been there. I've seen it. They're going to see it too, and they're going to believe it. At the end of this game, America is better off making a deal with the people of Iran, because
Yeah.
that's the real fight. And those
Yep.
are the winners. And it makes sense. It makes sense to make a deal with the winner, not the loser, because I know President Trump doesn't like to lose. Not President Trump doesn't like to make a deal with losers. We've seen that many times. For what it's worth, this is a president that means what he says and does what he says. So,
Yeah.
Gab, please, you have the last words. What do you want to tell the admirals in Iran? What do you want to tell the people in Iran? What do you want to tell the oligarchs? They have a say so here too. You want to protect your money? Just make friends with the Iranian people, because there are people who have dedicated their life in not letting you steal their money. Make a deal with the people of Iran. So please, your message to the people, to the oligarchs, to the military, to the generals, to the admirals, and as a flag officer of the United States Navy, to what the Navy would do to them if they don't listen. This is not a bluff. United States Navy does not bluff.
Well, thank you, Bijan, and you've touched on so many things. First, because you have talked about the needless loss of life and violence that this regime, this brutal regime, has imposed on their own people. I want to offer my condolences to those who have suffered as a result of that, and we all look forward to a day when that will stop. And so, if it comes to a military intervention, one of the things that I implore all those that are involved, it has to be surgical. In other words, what I said before about those who will not change their ways and will continue to strive to oppress and strive to gain power for their own self interest. They need to go away. But there are many out there, just as you have said, that are serving in the military out of patriotism and dedication to the people of the Iranian nation. And we want to leave them and the structure intact. So those perhaps military officers that I trained with early in both of our careers, they're probably no longer in the military. I'm certainly not. And as you said in the beginning, I'm speaking only from myself, but I'm not speaking for the military or the U.S. government, but this is what I believe. And so we want to keep them in place so that they will then be able to lead Iran into a brighter future and help with whoever is leading Iran into that brighter future. And part of that brighter future will be a lifting of sanctions and economic benefits to both of our nations. And that's where I deviate when people are overly centric on just U.S. interests, and saying U.S. first or Iran first. Yes, we have to put our own nation, the priorities first, but it should be a collaborative effort that benefits both, in my opinion. And I think that is the direction that we will head in. Once this regime is gone, then we'll be able to reestablish economic ties that will result in benefits to both nations. Both nations have a destiny of wealth and success that only one right now is on the right path. And the other one, the people are striving to be on the right path, but they are still under the thumb of that brutal regime. And I'm purposely not saying Islamic regime because this has nothing to do with Islam. This is just tyranny and dictators. And they will also, this is a caution, use disinformation and falsehoods. They will lie, quite frankly, to try to preserve their stature and their power and their authority. So everybody has to be very discerning about what the intents are. And I will say unequivocally right now, if it comes to a military intervention, the U.S. interest is what is best for the Iranian people. We are not coming to occupy. We are not coming to take your resources. We're coming for a partnership, a collaborative future where we can both benefit. And so hopefully that day will come very soon.
Gary, thank you so much for speaking the truth, as I've always known you to do. Always. You've been a brother, a classmate, and a war fighter to use as an example for anyone who's in a fight, especially an unequal fight.
Yeah.
I think the Iranian people are the bravest. They're the smartest. The graduates of their universities compete all over the world. They're wonderful, wonderful points of honor for the Iranian people. They're great people. They're people who care about others. They have a culture that is none of this. You say we don't call it Islamic Republic because it's not Islamic. It's not Iran, and it's not a republic. They have proven that for 47 years. They have proven that. So I appreciate your messaging the Iranian people. I appreciate your messaging the flag officers, the command, who should just reason with themselves. This is not political talk. It's logic. It's preserving you and your families. And I often often steal a wonderful sentence from a Master Chief that says, when you come to fight America, remember, you will die. Your children will be brought up by strangers. Guaranteed. When you come to fight us, that's what we do to you. And your message to these generals and admirals is not a threat. I think it's an invitation to logic. You're not going to survive one way or the other. At the hands of the Iranian people, if you keep killing them, there are 90 million of them. There are only a few of you. You know, somebody said, you carry a weapon, but you only have 5 bullets. There are 90 million of us. You're not going to. This is an important message to go out there to them. And I want to ask Morteza this question, if you don't mind, in Farsi. مرتضی آقای اسماعیل پورعزیز ببخشید کسی که سوالی کرده باشن که شما فکر میکنید که اون سوال رو حتما قبل از اینکه ادمیرال وایت برن باشون در میون بگذاریم.
یکی از مهمترین حالا سوالا که بودش، البته به انگلیسی هم نوشتن به فارسی هم نوشتن، این بود که آمریکا واقعا کمک ما میخواد بکنه یا نه، که بحث صحبت داشتش میکرد و الان ما نیاز داریم. واقعا بحث اول خود شما هم بودش که میبایست حالا کمک خارجی برای حمایت برای اون مثل آرتوپیو مطرح کردن. یه چیزای صحبتاتون بود دیگه، حالا میخواید ادامه بدیم؟
I'll convey that to Admiral White. So I asked him if there a burning question in the audience. How many people do we have? How many people are watching this program right now?
Watched that one right now. Is it less than that one? 2,000 something right now having the live stream, but more than 7,000 watched that one.
So it's midnight.
Yeah, that's a midnight. This is
we have most of our viewers from Iran, or
all is Iran. All is Iran.
So, Gary, 2,000 people are listening.
More
to
than
you.
2,000 already.
Are listening to you right now, and this program is going to be seen by more. I know that, I'm sure. And what I want to say to you is how grateful I personally am. Not for this program, not for your appearance, but for you, Admiral Gary White. You're a great American. You're a great American. You personify what this great country is all about. Thank you for being Gary White, Admiral Gary White. My brother.
There is a thank you both for sharing that's important information with us. Thank you, Admiral.
Thank you for facilitating this. We're going to say goodbye. And the question I asked was, is there a burning question there that is coming from the audience, over 2,000 people? And the repeat was, please come help us. We need your help. We need your help. If you need more motivation to make a great impact, this would be the legacy of the United States. We stood with the Iranian people and respected their wishes, both in not wanting the Islamic Republic and choosing whoever they want, any system of government they want. There is one guarantee to that: accepting these 4 principles that we talked about. And I will send these to you. I will share them with you. And I know every day, Morteza and I wake up in the morning, and the United States Navy, the best news compendium, comes from Admiral White. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and doing that. We will continue to have these talks. I think I'm going to go set up a real good talk, maybe a public one, maybe something like this, with some of our colleagues, our dear friends who also flew those magnificent birds like you did. Gary, thank you so much for being with us. On behalf of all of people who have listened to you, I want to thank you, and I look forward to continuing this conversation with you in another program. Have a wonderful day. And I would say, Hooyah, Admiral, Hooyah.
Thank you. And I too.
Anything similar. But what does Hooyah mean exactly? I think you could say huya by saying, how you doing? Saying, I heard that, I'll okay that, I'm done. What does huya mean, really?
Well, it would probably boil down to just opinion, but my opinion would be it's just kind of a motivational chant to let's make this happen. Let's do it.
I would say, let's do it. Let's make this happen. Huya, Admiral.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And best wishes.
Bye-bye. Okay.
آقای اسماعیل پاینده ایران.
سپاسگزارم از شما. من ممنونم از همه دوستانی که همراه بودن. تمام این برنامه به صورت فارسی هم زیرنویس خواهد شد و واقعا باید تشکر کنیم از جناب ادمیرال وایت، همچنین جناب بیژن کیان عزیز که واقعا اطلاعات بسیار مهمی رو با ما شیر کردن. ازشون بی‌نهایت ممنونیم. این ویدیو به طور کامل زیرنویس خواهد شد و از شما ممنونیم. پاینده ایران، بدرود با شما تا برنامه بعدی. سپاسگزارم که اجازه